What the hell? Let's do it.
That's the spirit. To quote the great Joseph Campbell, he said, "It is by going down into the abyss where we recover the treasures of life. Where you stumble, there lies your treasure." To the ironic twist of the unknown. Bottoms up.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy heresies and welcome to the desert of the real. Welcome to Aeon Bite. I hope you're writing your own gospel and living your own myth. I hope you are running with those searching for the truth and avoiding those who have found it. I hope you're looking for endless possibilities to everything, which we hope to provide here at Aeon Byte. We are not the final authority for everything or anything, but you are the final authority. And you come here to find that Gnosis that will work for you and only you. My name is Miguel Connor, and I am truly happy to see you and interact with you, whether we're doing this live or even at the recording afterwards. And as always, it is a great honor to be joined here by Dr. Arthur Versluis to discuss his new book, which I really enjoyed, and that is Alchemical Lightwork, a guide to creating cultures of light and spiritual awakening. Arthur, thank you very much once again for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Miguel. This has been this will be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
It is. Like I said, I enjoyed the book. I love your work because you always provide solutions. You dive into the perennial philosophy, that ancient Gnosis, to bring solutions that work in a modern time, whether it's the mystical state or this book or so many of your other works. And I think that's what we need more. We need it more than ever, as they say. We need a spiritual solution to get out of this mess, right?
Exactly. And Alchemical Lightwork is kind of template or map for people based on alchemy.
It is indeed, and we'll certainly break it down. And with us too, we are joined by Graham Pong. Graham, how are you doing today?
Oh, very good today. I'm looking forward to hearing, about cultural alchemy, because I can think of a culture or two today that definitely needs some alchemy.
Yeah, more than one or two. Oh, entire Western culture for sure. Well, awesome. We'll definitely dig into that. Already seeing people on the chat. As always, if you have any questions for Arthur, please super chat them so we can separate them and Graham or I can get to them. And we'll definitely get Arthur involved. So let's start with more or less how this book came, Arthur. It seems, as you say, there was a dream and a text, right? Is this the genesis of your book?
Well, it's definitely a precursor to it. I mentioned in the book that I had a dream that I was given an alchemical text, which was bound in a very special way and handed to me for safekeeping. It wasn't for me alone, but rather to pass on. And so this book, Alchemical Lightwork, is a way of doing that. And I've been working with someone who's been trained and working in the area of alchemy for many, many years, many decades. And so I shared that dream with him, and he said, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Given the circumstances. And so that's what the book is. It's a kind of passing on and an application of the ancient art of alchemy to our contemporary lives and contemporary situation.
And it seems again, you bring many sources and ideas and frameworks to see the problem and also the solution. And we should probably unpack the problem. And it seems, as you write, we could go to the great story of Parsifal in the Grail, where he goes into the castle and kind of drops the ball, right? Because he doesn't ask the right question. And I think that's what you're asking your reader. Let's ask the right question. And the question is, what ails the king, or what ails us, right?
That's absolutely right. That's the great Parsifal narrative, and really, as a symbolic narrative, it's the circumstance in which we find ourselves. It has a perennial truth, but it has special application to contemporary society, where uh, we've really, to a large extent, although we have great technological achievements like our what may enables our conversation here right now,
Right.
which is amazing. It's amazing that we can do this in such a smooth way. But at the same time, we know, and many people that I've talked to express this, that there's something amiss. There's a question to be asked, and the question is, what ails us? And once we start that question, and we begin to investigate, we're moving toward a path, and that's where the book starts. Actually, is starting on a path, and beginning a path of awakening.
And as you write, or one of the themes is simply, you just mentioned technology, and that's the issue, that technology is not going to save us. And we have sort of fallen in, as you write, we're caught in, I quote, the false artificial realm of human generated social illusions. And we are rapidly heading towards a sort of a nihilism because of the materialism that we're trapped into. We're in the matrix, and that's it, right? How did we get here, Arthur? How do we fall so bad?
Well, it's the technological power we have comes from a materialistic paradigm, and if you follow a materialistic paradigm, which really is what undergirds our society, then you do get power over. You can dig a lithium mine and annihilate a whole mountain. You can dam up rivers. It's amazing the amount of power. But at the same time, there's also a trade-off. We lose a deeper understanding. And so how do we recover that? And I published a book recently called Breaking Through the Materialistic Deception,
Mhm.
which it gives background on how we arrived at, and what the trajectory is that we're on, and how we arrived at where we are now in terms of materialism. And it's really the case that our society as a whole is pervaded by a materialistic ethos. And
Mhm.
while that has positives, it does gives us power over the natural world, it also means that we don't recognize many aspects of our own nature and that of nature around us, and specifically spirit and spiritual dimensions. So that's really the trade-off.
Yeah, I think that's well said. As you call it, and I quote, we are in a dark age of technological materialism. And it's, of course, there's a lot of sleight of hand. Like you just said, we have electric cars, but those have their own environmental headache. We're farther from nature. Even things like recycling, as we've discovered, it's kind of a big con. It doesn't even help society so much. We're separated from the natural world, and we're still trying to use the same, as Einstein is quoted as saying, the same solutions, the same mind that got us in trouble. We're trying to use the same mind, when, as you write, we really need a complete transformation, a transmutation into something new, a new way to see the world. Are you there, Arthur? Did you freeze on me? I think Arthur froze on me. Well, so much for technology. Oh, there you are. You're back. I was going to
I'm
say.
back. Yeah. Yeah. It's I'm not quite sure what happened there, but I think once we invoke the technological gremlins, then
Yeah, the archons.
the archons intervene. They can see what's happening, and we're calling into question their power. So
Yeah,
yeah.
well, I was just talking about, we need to transform our thinking. And in your book, you say you actually told your students this issue, and they said, well, social media, this and that, but they also said we can't get rid of our phones, right? It's almost like they saw the problem, but they couldn't. They were despairing because it seems there was no solution.
Well, that's true. I refer in the book to when I was uh, I did a workshop on meditation at the university for a couple hundred students, and I asked them what about their pervasive fear and anxiety, and the statistics about depression, and they said that came to a large extent from social media pressure, because you see your friends presenting a false image of themselves as being extraordinarily wealthy and happy, and so on. You get depressed from that, and then you create a false image of yourself to compete with them. And they said it underlying it is a sense of anxiety. And I said, well, why don't we just try one little experiment? We'll just put our phones outside our bedroom at night, and next week we'll see what happened. Can you leave your phone outside your bedroom at night? And so the next week I came back, and they said, and the students, some did. They said, yeah, we did, and I slept better. And this one guy raised his hand, and he said, I couldn't get rid of my phone at night. He
Oh, boy.
said, but at least I put my laptop outside.
He did something. He did
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Yeah. But we're all in the same boat, really, you know. And so it's a question of how do we begin to renew and develop anew our deeper understanding of ourselves and of nature, the natural world. And alchemy provides a path to doing that. It provides a kind of map. It's a general map, but it does apply regardless of the particular tradition, because it's a natural process, and it's also a human process. And so that's why you find alchemy in Christianity, which is the tradition that I've been taught, but also in Taoism, in Hinduism, and in Buddhism, with which I've also had experience. And so you find alchemy in different traditions, uh, because it's a natural process and a human process.
Yes, for the audience, Arthur also goes to the East to bring that wisdom and ties it all together. But I guess people will be asking, alchemy, isn't that proto chemistry? What is going on? How exactly can alchemy, as you write, release the light within us? But then again, didn't I just give it away? That's the point of alchemy.
Well, it's interesting because you and I have talked before about Gnosticism and American neo-Gnosticism,
Yeah.
and had a great conversation about that. And this is a different current, but from roughly the same period, because around this time, around the beginning of the period, Christian period, early Christian period, around 200, 300 AD, you also had Hermetic tradition, not only Gnosticism, a different form of Christianity, and Platonism, but also Hermetic or Hermetism, Hermetic thought. And so that's the alchemical tradition that parallels and also is found in the Nag Hammadi library. You find some Hermetic references and texts, also in some Platonic, uh, in the Gnostic texts. But what Hermetic tradition does is focus on the natural processes of transformation. And so you have texts like the Emerald Tablet.
Mhm.
You have the writings of Zosimos, who was an alchemist of that period, wrote amazing visionary treatises that I draw on in the book. And alchemy is a process, and it draws on dreams. It manifests in dreams and in different ways as a process of working from darkness toward illumination in stages. So the first stage is black, the Negredo or black darkness stage, and that's what we've been talking about to some extent. Then white is illumination, and red is rubedo, and that's the flowering, the final stage. And so you have three essential stages, and then there's an intervening stage which is yellow, or sometimes called citrinitas. It's the stage before red. So black, white, yellow, and red are the stages. And alchemy can be applied to uh, plants, so working with plants to make plant medicines that heal. It can be working with metals, uh, so transmuting metals like a poisonous mercury into a medicine. And then finally, it can also be a practice that's an inner practice, and that's what we're going to be talking about here. It's a form of inner alchemy.
Well said. Yes, and of course, I contend Hermeticism, alchemy, Gnosticism. It's all overlap. Probably came from the same places or primordial ideas. Even as somebody like Tobias Churn has mentioned, the Nag Hammadi library was discovered in a place where there was once a lot of alchemical libraries and so forth. Zosimus of Panopolis, which you do concentrate in your book, or you give him some props if you would. You know, his cosmology could come out of the secret book of John with the archons trapping us in an illusion. So it's all there. And so I guess the question is, it was a practice, but how can one, as you say, internalize alchemy to get us out of the negredo that you say we are in our society today, that nihilism, that materialism, that sense of despair?
Well, the the basic practice that I've been taught is invoking light and calling on the light to transform the darkness. And so, one metaphor for this is laying down our baggage, because we all, of course, have baggage from the past. We have collective social baggage that we carry. We have familial, family baggage. We have our own individual baggage, and so it turns out to be a lot of bags. And you can set those down. You don't have to carry those burdens. And so recognizing that we have all of that is part of the process. Uh, and to do that, to recognize it, you need illumination, you need light in order to be able to see. And so light is really key here in the sense of invoking light. Now, in the tradition that the book is drawing from, it's Western and specifically Christian. And so the light is the light of Christ. And if you go back to the Hermetic tradition, at the beginning, it's the light of Hermes. It's Hermetic. Hermes is the illuminating energy. It, in some ways, can be understood as, uh, if you're caught in a swamp, let's say you're in a mire and you're stuck. It's hard to get yourself out if you're in quicksand. So
Right.
you need a helping hand. You need a kind of helping assistance to get you out of the mire, and that's what this tradition emphasizes or includes is the idea of invoking light. And of course, ultimately, it's our own light, but nonetheless. Uh, when you're stuck in the mire and you need a helping hand, still there's actually a helping hand to pull you out. And so that's a way, these are metaphors for understanding what we're talking about here, which in a Christian context is the light of Christ. And it's the transformative light of Christ. That's the, in the Hermetic tradition, in Western Christian Europe, that's how it was expressed.
Our inner light, or as the Gnostic said, the divine spark, which transforms us.
That's right. And spark is also light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, it's not just adding more to our egos, but it's a complete transformation and sort of a new way of seeing it. It's not just connecting with nature, but it's changing our own nature, because again, we try to fix the environment with our own sort of we try to fix the environment by being separate from the environment, right, Arthur? Which kind of is illogical, but that's how we've been doing it.
Well, if you reflect on how we see nature in contemporary society generally, how I saw it growing up, okay? I grew up in a Protestant, a conventional Protestant Christian family and church, and you look at the natural world as objects, really, resources. Of course, you have a connection to certain places and familiar places, but at the same time, we generally don't want to see, and actually, often people will denigrate the idea of seeing uh, spirits in nature, or seeing that a place can have a spirit, which in Roman tradition was uh, the genius spirit of the place. That's literally what the phrase translates to. The spirit of the place is not an idea that we generally have in the United States, at least. The idea that there are sacred places and that there are non-physical beings that are present, and we need to be aware of that. So trees, water, air, each have their own inhabitants that we don't necessarily see. This is a very traditional way of seeing the world, and it's a way of seeing nature that is found in Western Europe. It's found in Asia. Um, it's very widespread, and yet when I was growing up, it was something I never even heard of, never even thought of. It's very unfamiliar to us in contemporary society, this kind of understanding of nature. But as you begin to recognize this and begin to work with it, then you begin to see nature in a different way. Because if there are beings there that we don't necessarily immediately see, we have a different kind of relationship with the place. It's not just a place you come in and clear cut, right? Because clear cutting implies a totally objectified view where nothing really matters. That's what nihilism means. And the end result of nihilism, of materialism, is nihilism, believing in nothing. And I know people who believe in nothing. It's a pretty barren belief system. It's pretty barren, but it does exist. And so by recognizing that nature is more than what we see, you're beginning to open a door into a deeper way of understanding. And that's an important part of this.
Beautifully said. Definitely agreed. Well, let me bring in Graham before I pull up some other stuff. Graham, do you have a question or a remark, or what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say what occurs to me is how does this sync up with free will of others, of basically not going along with the program? Because as I usually say is, sometimes I can actually get myself out of my own way, but I can't do much about that other person. Heck.
Yeah, what do you think, Arthur?
Yeah, that's a good point. Ultimately, we're responsible, it's true, for ourselves. And the vision that's in the book, which is the subtitle is A Guide to Creating Cultures of Light. And the way this is discussed in the book is not how to impose a culture of light and at gunpoint on
My light.
society as a whole, but rather how do these flower? How does a culture of light, an illuminated culture, flower? How does it come into being? And it comes into being first from an individual and then individuals. So you have uh, an individual, you have couples, you have families, you have friends, you have the beginning with friends of a community. Once you have a community, that can continue to grow. And that's how uh, a transformation happens, is in a decentralized way. And that's what you saw in Gnosticism in antiquity. It was small groups, transformative small groups.
Mhm.
Same in terms of the mystical groups in Christianity in England or in Germany or in the U.S. The theosophical groups that were very Gnostic like, and they're small groups. And so you're absolutely right, Graham. It's not a matter of imposition on others. It's a matter of flowering. How does it look to see a more balanced culture flower? How does that come about? And that's really what this book is about. As far as I know, nobody has ever really written about this before in applying alchemy to individual and couple and group transformation. So this is new. And what I'm saying in the book is it manifests according to specific locales, places. A culture flowers in a specific place among specific people, and it needs a balance of nature and spirit and the human intertwined, those three. And that's what forms a culture.
No, no, beautifully said. I couldn't agree with all of that more. I'm looking slightly, one step ahead there, and I agree 100% that we need to plant these gardens of light cultures in locations. What I'm concerned about is how do we protect that garden from the people who want to feed on the light? And, it's like, how do we put up, a wall to protect that garden to make sure the garden flourishes and the weeds don't choke it out? I guess that's what I'm looking at down the line, and maybe that's part of your next book, Tag.
Yeah, that's a good question because at toward the latter part of alchemical lightwork, uh, I discuss different communities, and uh, some of those are hidden communities. They are hidden in the sense that they don't advertise themselves. They're under the radar, as it were, and that's one option. And the Rosicrucian tradition included literally invisible, it was an invisible brotherhood, an invisible group, uh, meaning in the modern world that means not necessarily visible through social media and those kinds of venues. It appears in a different way for those who are connected to it. So that's one kind of protection. But there comes a time when it's more than that, where where the kind of opposition to groups can become violent, can be a social kind of opposition. So you find that among the English theosophers, where they were attacked at some point. At
Mm.
some points, they were actually physically attacked. Um, you find governmental opposition, and so what are the means of protecting what is really valuable from opposition? That's a great question, Graham, and uh, it leads into something that's not really in the book itself. The book is about the process of transformation and about some communities that represent that in different ways. But once you get into the question of uh, persecution or social opposition, or even just survival, that's a whole set of. You're right. That's another book, and that would probably be pretty good, but uh, haven't gotten there yet.
Well, let's get back to the one you actually did as to how we plant the garden and what it might look like. So I want to hear
Yeah.
about these communities. Thank you.
Yeah, you do give examples in your book of these alchemical communities.
Yeah, there are some examples. There were a number in the 17th century, mid to late 17th century. Um, Number of examples. Some into the 18th century. Then 19th century, there were some communities developed in the United States. There are some groups now. I mean, all it takes really to have a alchemical group is enough people doing the same kinds of work who are communicating with each other. It's that simple. So really, what we're not talking about something elaborate where you have to create a whole citadel in the mountains and a kind of a hidden citadel or something. It
Right.
can happen anywhere because what we're talking about is simply a natural process of awakening, becoming freer. Because part of this is becoming freer, and freer means freer from uh, all kinds of addictions and distractions that we have in the modern world. Doesn't mean you totally reject everything and become Luddite and throw technology out. It just means you become freer from all of the things that we are beset with in modern society. You become not as much bound by it. So that's really a significant part of the path.
Mhm. And the examples you give is, I think, what there was a Swiss community, another community in Asia. Those were some
Yeah,
examples.
I give the example of the Rosicrucians, uh, and some Rosicrucian writings and examples. And then also, uh, I mentioned Bhutan, the Kingdom of
Yeah.
Bhutan, which is a kind of um, special place on Earth. I was in Bhutan just a few months ago, actually,
Wow.
and it's a remarkable place, but it protects itself. So Bhutan, it costs money to be there. If you're a visitor, they restrict immigration quite strictly because they want Bhutan to be Bhutanese and to reflect Bhutanese tradition. And Bhutan can be understood in terms of this as a kind of large example of a place that retains its own or is aiming to retain its own uniqueness, its mountain uniqueness in the modern world. And so it is an example of it's exemplary in some ways. Uh, has its own unique culture, its own unique clothing, all kinds of things that are really architecture, the religious tradition, very ancient form of Tibetan Buddhism. Uh, and within that context, alchemy is a way of understanding that particular Vajrayana path or Bhutanese Buddhist path. So you're absolutely right. Bhutan is a very good larger example of what we're talking about.
Yeah. And what type of government do they have?
Well, Bhutan is a representative government, but there is a king. There's a royal family. The royal family abdicated some years ago, although but still exists and just isn't a political entity. But as the chaos in Nepal shows
Yeah.
recently, I mean, I was in Nepal not too long ago, and
Really?
there was a taxi driver telling me at that time, king would be pretty good. We really wouldn't mind a king. Uh,
Yeah. Some order.
and there's a movement to restore the king in Nepal.
Mm.
Very interesting. Uh, it's very interesting to see this unfold. And Bhutan, was it right to um, to no longer have the king? Well, not everybody I talked to thinks that was great. Uh, so it's an interesting set of questions because having the royal family, having that. uh, if the royal family, if the king is really has the best of intentions, then it's really potentially a very stable form of government. The problem comes, and this is what the king himself said: in the future, there could be a bad king, and he
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
want he didn't want to be responsible for having a bad king in the future. Yeah, that's what he said. So you can understand that, but these kingdoms did maintain their cultural autonomy. So that's an interesting set of questions, actually, but a little bit off the beaten
Yeah.
track of the book. That is,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, let's get back to the book, but it's sort of the perennial question. I think one of the most famous one is in the Hebrew Bible, where the Hebrews are just a-okay with their anarchist government, but then they decide we want a king, and Yahweh's like, "Are you sure we want a king?" And of course, he gives them Saul, who wasn't very good. So, and they
Well,
gave David, so you
that's
get
what
what
the
you asked
Bhutanese
for.
king said. He didn't want a future bad king, and
Which is going to
so
happen.
yeah, it's a interesting area to reflect on in light of the chaos in Nepal right now, uh, which I hope subsides soon.
Yeah.
The major government buildings on fire, and really shocking level of disarray. So
Yeah,
yeah.
coming to a Western government near you at the rate we're going. That's why your book is so important. It's so important because, again, we need a transformation. We need a spiritual solution. We need to move away from the ways that are not working. Sure, like you said, technology is great, but alcoholism, mental disease, depression, all those things are shooting up. We're in an existentialist
Suicide
nightmare.
also.
Yeah,
That's
unfortunately.
Yeah, it's all
Unfortunately.
true. And with alchemical lightwork, with alchemy, what the book offers is a kind of map of the terrain, which is what alchemy gives you. It
Right.
gives you these stages. It gives you a way of understanding, which is coming from Western European tradition, and uh, that is not that well known, and so it's useful to have that out there. I think it's beneficial, and to recognize that there are examples within Western tradition of, you could call it an esoteric path,
Mhm.
but it's a path of transformation, spiritual transformation, that exists both in the West and in the East.
Yes, correct. And you give examples. You give some of the great luminaries like Jacob Boehme and Paracelsus. All these light workers. Germany's has such a rich tradition. I think because the Germans, in their natural state, really understand nature and how communities are connected to nature. So you did give so many examples, and of course the thread or the leitmotif, the German word for the theme, is of course Hermes Trismegistos. And each chapter you give sort of a, here's the line and this is how the chapter works. In fact, I'm going to pull it up right here, and if you don't mind, I want to read the emerald tablets. And is this your translation, or what did you draw it from?
It's my version of it. There are many versions. I use each one of these as an epigraph for one of the chapters. So each
Right.
chapter is kind of a riff on, draws on one of these. So yeah, good thing to
Yeah,
read.
it is. And let me read it real quick. The Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus. Number one, I speak not fictitious things, but what is true and most certain. Number two, what is below is that which is above. And what is above is like that which is below, accomplishing the miracles of one. Number three, all things come from the mediation of one, so are all things born from this one. Number four, its father is the sun, its mother is the moon. The wind carries it in its belly, the earth nourishes it. Number five, it causes works of wonder, telesmi, and is the completion of the whole world. Number 6, its power's complete if it turned toward earth. Number 7, separating the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, with care and ingenuity. Number 8, ascend wisely from the earth to heaven, and then again descend to earth, uniting what is above and below. Thus you will realize the glory of the whole world, and all obscurity and darkness will fly far away from you. Number 9, this is the power of all powers, as it overcomes all that is subtle and permeates everything solid. Number 10, thus is everything created. Number 11, from here proceed wonderful adaptations, of which this is the process. Number 12, therefore I am called Hermes Trismegistus, having the 3 parts of the philosophy of the whole world. And number 13, that which I had to say concerning the operation of the sun is complete. Well, that's very beautiful. I mean, I feel inspired just reading it. I think just as daily meditations that would work too, right, Arthur?
Yeah, it's such a mysterious and wonderful text, and it it is a classic within the entire alchemical tradition. You find references back to it, and the idea that uh, the one with a capital O, the one that connects all things, and that is uniting that which is above with that which is below, the power of powers, the operation of the sun with a capital S. All of these aspects, these are different aspects of the alchemical process, which it explicitly refers to. It refers to a process, and the process is one of transformation from darkness to illumination and from separation to connection. And so it's a classic text. And then each of these, so I start with, I speak that which is not fictitious, but it's true. And at the very beginning, and then all the way through from the each chapter is an epigraph drawn from this to help explicate the process. And in this text, you can't see immediately or clearly what the stages of the process are and what the process is. We cover that process in a course on Hyros Institute. Hyros Institute, I included some texts that explicate the process itself, and also Hermetic invocation of light. This is all connected together. So there's the Institute is a nonprofit, and the course that we created is intended to be a complement to Alchemical Lightwork. And any money that comes in doesn't go to me, it goes to the nonprofit in order to support its activities. And there you see the process. There are texts that go through the exact process in stages without reversing things, which sometimes happens in alchemical texts. Somebody wants to encode it in a way that makes it difficult. There's lots of that. Alchemical texts are notoriously difficult, but there are texts that are very, very clear. And so we include some of those in the course. And so right now it's actually on sale for $49. But the underlying idea of the course is to complement in a practical way the book. And so the book and the course are interwoven in the same way that the book and the Emerald Tablet are interwoven.
And you can get your course through your homepage. You have links there, or is there it's another website?
It's Hyros.institute. That's the name of the website.
Like
so
Heroes.
People, yes, you're welcome to visit that. It has some other resources on it. There's a couple of interviews with alchemists, including a Czech alchemist, young Czech alchemist, which we did recently. Another one, a conversation with Tibetan Buddhist practitioner who is known for doing alchemical formulas. So these are different
Wow.
kinds of alchemy that these folks do, but it's all related. And so this is a lot of fun to explore. And really, this is what we call co-exploration. It's we're all explorers together in these paths.
Indeed. And what do you think, on a little side question, let's say the very popular text is the Kybalion, and it's a modern text. What do you think of it? I mean, again, it's very popular
Yeah,
still.
I'm familiar in a rough way with it. I think I glanced at it some years ago because of curiosity, or perhaps somebody mentioned it. But really, in Alchemical Lightwork, I deliberately, although it's not an academic book, it's not filled with, as American Gnosis is, literally 1,000
Right.
footnotes. Um, this does not have that, but I did adhere really pretty carefully to traditional texts. And by traditional, I mean practicing alchemists. So I include Emerald Tablet, I include Zosimus, I include uh, Thomas Vaughan and his wife. Thomas Vaughan and
Hmm.
his wife were alchemical practitioners. Um, and I include a few more figures, including, as you mentioned, Jakob Böhme, Dionysius Frere, who was an extraordinarily clear in what he wrote. So I adhere to this tradition itself, and I don't go outside it. And specifically, the tradition that this book is based in, primarily, partly it's drawing on Tibetan Buddhism and on Bhutan. I draw on Bhutanese examples in the book a little bit. But primarily it's coming out of Jakob Böhme, Dionysius Andreas Frere, John Portage, and these are classical alchemical mystical practitioners. They practice a form of mysticism, which is inner alchemy.
For sure. And yeah, I got a couple of super chats. One, yeah, thanks for your support. Mind Hack. And then let's see, Chasing Mound Builders. I don't know, this might be out of your wheelhouse, but thanks for the support. Yes, does the concept of the UAP emerging conversation intersect with your thesis here? Are you dealing with aliens?
No, nope. However, once you begin to open the door to non-physical beings and beings, uh, spirits of nature, you're opening the door also to other kinds of phenomena that we often people will label paranormal.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, there's a question here as to what aliens are, what is really happening
Right.
um, here in terms of some of these phenomena. There's a woman who published a book on this a few years ago, and she included in her book some experiences she had with a young man who was communicating through a kind of meditative practice with extraterrestrial intelligences. Well, that's where some of his knowledge came from, which included, among other sources, which ultimately included him founding a company, uh, creating some inventions based on this. Well, what the heck is going on here? I mean, what is this exactly? What is he communicating with? That's a good question. I really am not sure. I don't know the fellow, but here, what I would say is, once you begin to open the door to uh, phenomena that goes beyond a strictly materialistic worldview, you need a way of orienting yourself. And alchemy provides that because you have these stages, and the stages are the grado, dealing with the darkness, invoking the light, flourishing, the rubedo stage, and within that context, it may be that what gets classed as, unexplained aerial phenomena or what are extraterrestrial, it's possible that that kind of thing or that kind of phenomena plays a role in the sense of non-physical knowledge or interactions, but that's not something I deal with at all in the book.
Right. Yeah, like you said, it's a lens to see the world. And you conclude your book with a vision of restoring primordial balance between the three realms symbolized by the triquetra. And we just mentioned that in the tablet. So, what is this vision, and what do you think is the ultimate message conveyed by Hermes, these three realms?
Well, in the book, what the triquetra symbolizes, and the book includes some other images I'm going to mention here in a second, but really the three realms in the context of this alchemical tradition are nature, spirit, and human. And you see this disconnection in modern society between nature in the spiritual realm, and then humans in the spiritual realm, a separation of humans from nature. So you have a separation in each direction. And not only that, but when you think about AI or you think about uh, virtual reality or whatever term people want to call it, artificial reality, that's a separation from actually all three realms, if you think about it, because it's a technological realm. There's no nature. There's only artificial nature. There's no spirit. It's not spiritual. It's not human really either. It's actually what I call infra. It's an infraverse. It's a lower verse. It's an infraverse that's below this triad. But a healthy society, a culture, has all three of those aspects. It has nature, has a healthy role for nature, a appreciative role, a recognition of nature and of nature's how nature supports us as humans, and also spirits, the spiritual realm. And that's what you see when you go to Japan and you're visiting a Shinto shrine. What is there at the Shinto shrine? It is spirits, it's nature, and it's the human realm interwoven. And so that's what the triquetra symbolizes, and that's how a way of understanding a very balanced and healthy, flourishing culture. So that's really what the book is pointing toward. And there's another way to understand three and three realms, but here I think this is important as a kind of navigation, because if you have nature and the human and you don't have spirit, don't have the spiritual, it's not a culture. Actually, we refer to corporate culture, different kinds of culture, university
Yeah,
culture, culture of
right.
this or that. It's not a culture unless it has all three realms. So that's
Agreed.
what the book is pointing toward.
Agreed, and that's why I always love about the Corpus Hermeticum, because it states, humans are in between the gods and the animals, but we have a role, and we are like mediators, and we're not more important than the animals and the gods, but it's part of the whole, you might say, process, the alchemical process of how everything moves and cycles and returns to the source and goes back out. So it's as Terry Pratchett said, human beings are where the fallen angel meets the rising ape, and it's a good thing, right? It's not good or bad, it's just the way it is, right? We have our jobs.
Well, that's true. And one of the things I wanted to mention about the Alchemical Lightwork book is that it includes some images of a couple. It's a royal couple, a king and a queen.
Right.
Those images are actually unique to this book in that they've never been published before, as far as I know, in any source. in the sequence that they are in color in this. The publisher, Inner Traditions, actually inserted these alchemical images in the book in color. And so they're here for the first time, and they show this alchemical process in terms of a man and a woman, king and a queen, going through different stages and ultimately uniting and becoming a single being. And that process we're going to deal with in a course coming up. We're going to have a course that follows also a text called the Divine Couple, and draws on that text, which the current course also draws on. But the Divine Couple course will feature this kind of process, which is a male-female process that's in part of this tradition. So I wanted to mention that because it's beautifully done. What the publisher did
Yeah.
really to get color illustrations in a paperback book has to be commended. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
They're gorgeous.
I
Yeah.
didn't think they would necessarily go for it, but they did.
Yeah. Yeah. Inner Traditions always gets the wins. They always go with they help the writers a lot. So and they believe in the vision of the esoteric and what each writer is trying to do. So kudos to them. And as we get to the end, Graham, let me bring you in. Any last questions or comments for Arthur?
The last one that popped into my head is, while I very much enjoyed this and I agree with everything, how does he handle it if somebody wants to bring in Thoth the Atlantean and Boreal? Peg.
Thoth the Atlantean?
Yeah, that's the Emerald Tablets. That's the early 20th century work by Maurice Doreal. It's not really alchemy.
Well, we've been pretty faithful to the alchemical tradition as it you can follow it. I have one book that deals with Platonic mysticism and the Platonic mystical tradition as it goes throughout the West. And this book is on alchemy and the alchemical tradition. The earlier book, American Gnosis, was about how Gnosticism manifests in contemporary society. And each of these is faithful to and focuses on the line, the lineage. And there really is a lineage, actually. It may be ahistorical sometimes in that the historical line appears to be broken, but still there's a continuity. And the continuity of alchemy here goes from the early period into the late medieval, early modern period or Renaissance, and from there to today. And so other texts or other works that are outside this, I don't really deal with them because primarily, except as sometimes an outside reference like Bhutan, where it's helpful. But otherwise, I'm trying to maintain this and develop what exists within the Western tradition itself, and show that it's there, show that there is such a tradition, because who else is doing this? Not too many. There are some, but not too many. And so I really appreciate the chance to talk with people. And I see the chats going on the corner there, but it's too small for me to read while we're on the screen here. So I appreciate that there's an ongoing conversation and that there's people talking about these things. I think that's really great. You guys are doing a great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, Hermeticism is still very popular. As I keep saying in the show, this is the age of Hermes. It doesn't take a mystic to see that the United States and Western culture is transitioning to something different. Maybe not an empire, but things are changing. And when things change, it's not the Aeon of Horus or any other god. It really is Hermes, right, Arthur? He's the god of the change, the alchemical process, the doorways, and there's a sort of trickster mentality or energy, whether it's COVID or Trump or AI, that's baffling every think tank in the world. And so I see this as the age of Hermes. And if we grab onto Hermes and Mercury, I think we'll be fine, right, Arthur, for our next iteration as a culture, as a people.
That's right, because there are natural process. There's a natural process. There's a natural aspect to all that we've been talking about, and it's part of our inheritance as human beings, and so it's natural to us. And Hermes is the signal figure for that natural process. So it's been a lot of fun talking with you, both of you, Graham. I appreciate, Graham and Miguel, your questions and your thoughts on all of this and reflections. Really, really, it's been a great conversation.
Always a great conversation, and definitely check out his book. It's a great read. It's not long. It's 160 pages, and bang, bang, bang. He gets, really inspiring, poetic, useful knowledge, and you learn a lot. So get it. Of course, I have links on the show note. I have links to Arthur's homepage. Please support this podcast for patrons and AB Prime members. You get the bonus with the summary, so you'll get extra on Arthur's book and on alchemy. So again, please support this podcast in any way you can. And yes, the chat has been very good. You can't see it, Arthur, but the very intelligent comments on, again, alchemy and everything else, Neoplatonism, Alexandria, all that wonderful, rich tradition. But we are at the end. Graham, thanks for keeping us company as the sidekick.
Oh, always my pleasure. And I always recommend strap in, hold on tight, and keep your arms and legs inside the ride at all times.
Yeah. As Bill Hicks said, it's just a ride. So, Arthur, as always, it is wonderful having you on the show. Love everything you do, and keep doing what you're doing. Keep that Gnosis flowing, my friend.
Thank you, Miguel. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the invitation to be on here. This has really been good.
Always enjoyed it and always have fun. And for everybody else, please have a rest of your, it is Mercury Day. Haha, no coincidence. Have a good rest of your Wednesday. And we will have a show on Kabbalistic angel healing and Archon protection on Friday. Hope to see you there. And until then, take care.